Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 5 must-draft wide receivers for the 2023 fantasy football season. Now, we all know just how great Cooper Kupp, how great Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill are. All of these wide receivers that go in the first 2 rounds, they are all amazing, and there's a reason why so many people like them. So I think it's kind of a cop-out if I go ahead and say my number 1 must-draft wide receiver is Tyreek Hill, because we all know just how great he is. So we are going to exclude those top 2 round guys and start in round number 3 with my top 5 must-draft players. If you guys do end up enjoying today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So we move to number 1. The first wide receiver that we talk about is going to be going earliest in fantasy football drafts, and at number 5, the player is going to be going the latest in fantasy football drafts. So at number 1, we have Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns, current underdog ADP, wide receiver 18 at pick 37.5. Now, despite the fact that Deshaun Watson was a complete and utter unmitigated disaster, Amari Cooper still had a great season, and much of that is because Jacoby Brissett really turned it on. I don't think anyone really thought Jacoby Brissett would look that good, and even the people that doubted Deshaun Watson, that said Deshaun Watson wasn't going to play well in 2022, he was going to be rusty, I think even those people expected Watson to look better than how he looked last season. Cooper was the wide receiver number 10 in half PPR on the season, and the wide receiver 15 in half PPR points per game, tied with Tyler Lockett, as well as the Slim Reaper Diontae Smith. He played in all 17 games on the season in 2022, racking in 78 receptions, 4.6 per game, 18th at wide receiver, on 132 targets, 7.8 per game, 16th, 1,160 receiving yards, 68.2 per game, number 11, and he scored 9 total touchdowns, 4th at wide receiver. The man also had a 39.3% dominator rating, ranking 3rd at wide receiver, because the man saw so much of the Cleveland Browns receptions, receiving yards, and total touchdowns. The team brings in Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore is a pretty interesting player. I think a lot of people in the fantasy community really liked him coming out of college and thought the Jets would be a good landing spot. Now, obviously, Zach Wilson was awful. The Jets get rid of him. They bring in Aaron Rodgers. It is what it is. So now Elijah Moore just gets sent to the Cleveland Browns because Aaron Rodgers wants his Packers friends like fucking Randall Cobb to show up there. So now Elijah Moore is in Cleveland. But Amari Cooper is still the undisputed number 1 wide receiver in this offense. And again, while Deshaun Watson was terrible last season, there's no way to sugarcoat his play. Maybe he had a couple of good throws last season, but the guy was absolutely terrible. Bottom of the barrel quarterback play. The motherfucker was playing like his name was Zach Wilson. So I believe in 2023, we are going to get a much better version of Deshaun Watson, and I think that can make Amari Cooper even better. Now, will Deshaun Watson return to his former glory as a potential top 3 quarterback in the NFL and in fantasy football? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't think you need top 3 quarterback play out of Watson for Amari Cooper to finish inside the top 12 again. So coming off the board at wide receiver number 18, I think that's a big misprice right now. I think he should be going much higher, and I am very excited to draft Amari Cooper right now. I've done it already in a bunch of drafts on Underdog Fantasy. Amari Cooper also had 870 unrealized air yards, 3rd at wide receiver. So if these passes are a little bit more accurate, Amari Cooper might have his best season of his NFL career yet in 2023. Moving to number 2, we have Christian Watson of the Green Bay Packers, underdog ADP, wide receiver 22 at pick 44.9. Now, I know off the top of your head right now, you might be a little bit nervous, right? You might be thinking that because Aaron Rodgers is gone, he is now a Jet, and Jordan Love is very unproven, that Christian Watson might be a one-year wonder, right? He might be a guy that, he had this great rookie year. Now, the numbers aren't crazy on his rookie year, right? He had played in 14 games, started 11. He had 65 targets, 4.6 per game, number 65, 41 receptions, 2.9 per game, number 64, 611 receiving yards, 43.6 per game, number 52, and 9 total touchdowns, number 4, right? He didn't have these crazy, unreal rookie numbers, right? He doesn't have the best rookie year ever, but he was impressive, right? When you saw him on the field, you were like, wow, that's why Aaron Rodgers is peppering this bastard with targets. But now it goes from Rodgers to Jordan Love. And that unproven aspect of Jordan Love will make people nervous. And I get it, right? Jordan Love was a first-round pick a bunch of years ago, right? He was drafted in the Joe Burrow, the Tua Tagovailoa, the Justin Herbert, the pervert draft. And we haven't really seen much of him. And even when we saw him, he didn't look amazing. But normally there's a reason why guys get drafted in the first round, right? I know there's first round busts in the NFL. We just talked about Zach Wilson. The only thing that Zach Wilson does good is probably his teammates' mothers, right? He's probably pretty good at that. But Christian Watson is going to be fine, I think. I think when you look at the wide receiver core there, they draft a wide receiver, they draft a couple of tight ends. Like, Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson are the number 1 and number 2. Like, Watson is really good. Doubs kind of got pushed up because of his repertoire, his connection, that 5G LTE supposedly with Aaron Rodgers. But now Rodgers is gone. So again, I understand they might be a little bit panicked about drafting a receiver with Jordan Love. But when Jordan Love played, he seemed to have found Watson. So even if Jordan Love stinks, he's still going to throw the ball a bunch to Christian Watson. So Christian Watson should be just fine. I think he has top 12 wide receiver potential in him. Now, am I going to rank him that high? No, because the top 12 is loaded with names. But I think he could definitely finish in there. Injuries happen, knock on wood. We don't root for injuries, though. At number 3, we have Michael Pittman Jr. of the Indianapolis Colts, current underdog ADP, wide receiver 28 at pick 55.1. If you guys are new to Underdog Fantasy and you click on the link in the video description, you will get a $100 first match deposit bonus of up to $100. So if you deposit $100, they'll give you an additional $100 in insight credit. You deposit $25, they'll give you an additional $25, $50, an additional $50. If you don't know what Underdog Fantasy is, it is a best ball platform. I've done a bunch of drafts on there already. What best ball is it's kind of like your redraft league, except for you draft your team and that's it. There's no waivers. There's no trades, and there's not even in-season management. You don't even have to edit your lineup because Underdog will automatically put in the highest scores into your lineup every single week. So it's the most fun part about fantasy football, the draft, without all of the annoying things like accidentally starting the wrong wide receiver or, forgetting to do the waiver wire because there's no waiver wire, no trades, no in-season management. Check it out. They have a big tournament, $25 entry, Best Ball Mania 4, $15 million in total prizes. They also have a smaller puppy tournament, only $5 to enter. So back on to Michael Pittman. A lot of people seem to hate Michael Pittman. It seems like a lot of people think that Michael Pittman isn't any good. And I can kind of get what they're saying because he's not the most explosive player. When you watch him play, your eyes aren't having an orgasm when you watch the guy run up and down the field. But in terms of quarterback play, the quarterback play for the Indianapolis Colts has been terrible since Pittman entered the NFL. I mean, last year they had Sam Ehlinger and Matt Ryan. It looked like Matt Ryan crawled out of a fucking coffin to play quarterback for the Colts last year. Pittman was the wide receiver 23 in half PPR and the wide receiver 29 in half PPR points per game. 16 games played, the man had 141 targets, 8.8 per game, number 11 at wide receiver. He had 99 receptions, 6.2 per game, 8th at wide receiver. So he was getting the targets, the receptions were up there as well. Now imagine what can happen if the quarterback play isn't terrible. I know most people don't think that Anthony Richardson is the most elite passer, prolific passer ever. I agree with that, but he has the arm, and he is significantly better than what Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger were. So even if in his rookie year he doesn't come out there fucking throwing no-look passes like his name was Patrick Mahomes, anything was better than what they had. And even if I still think Richardson starts week 1, at least Gardner Minshew will play the first couple games, and Minshew isn't that bad either. 925 receiving yards. Again, he had all the targets, all these receptions, and only had 925 receiving yards, 57.8 per game, 24th at wide receiver, and 4 total touchdowns, 37th at wide receiver. The Colts offense went from rock hard in 2021 to a flaccid cock in 2022. I think they bounced back in a big way. Some efficiency stats. Again, if the eye test doesn't pass for Michael Pittman Jr. when you're watching the games, the man had a 50.3% route win rate, 7th at wide receiver, 297 total route wins, 2nd at wide receiver, and a 52.2 contested catch rate, 17th at wide receiver. So again, even if you want to make up all these excuses, you don't think Michael Pittman's all that great of a player, look at the team. Look at the guys around him. They got Alec Pierce. They drafted another wide receiver. But Pittman is the clear number 1. The only thing that people can even say that I remotely understand as to why you would not like Michael Pittman is that you think that Anthony Richardson sucks ass. Because I can kind of get that. I can kind of get behind that argument. But I also think Michael Pittman, as long as there's a guy with fucking enough brain power inside of there to throw the ball to Michael Pittman, I think Pittman could explode in 2023. Next up, we move to a rookie wide receiver, Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings, underdog ADP wide receiver 35 at pick 71.5. In the offseason, Adam Thielen goes to Carolina, and if you look at the depth chart, KJ Osborne's the number 2, but let's be honest, KJ Osborne hasn't proved much. He's had some flash games. So I get why some people might still think KJ Osborne's a good player. I mean, I don't think he's like terrible, but I think Jordan Addison pretty clearly will carve the number 2 role out. Maybe it takes a couple weeks, but I think it won't take that long, right, to pass up KJ Osborne. So Addison's the number 2 guy there, at least really soon. He was a first-round draft pick. Now, he's not the biggest guy on earth, right? 5'11", taller than me by an inch. 173 pounds. But I think with how good the Vikings offense looked last year, this is a really good landing spot for Addison. The team wants to throw the ball more as well. At least that's what it appeared like last year. 11 games played in 2022 at USC at 20 years old. He had 49 receptions on 84 targets, 70.2% catch rate. He had 875 receiving yards, 14.8 per game, 8 receiving touchdowns, and he had a 16.3% target share in a pretty solid USC offense. So, he looked good in college. Obviously, Jefferson's the number 1 guy, but you look at the Vikings depth chart even further, and you're like, wow, this defense is bad. Right? We knew that last year, and that's kind of why I talked a lot about how the Vikings are fraudulent. There was kind of back and forth, fucking Twitter finger battles, people saying, oh, the Vikings are not frauds. Then they make the playoffs, and they get their ass fucking waxed by the Giants. The Giants. Come on, right? The Vikings defense sucks. They're not much better this year. At least I don't think so. And if the defense is bad, all that means is you do the math, they got to throw more. The offense is going to have to throw more in the game, and Jordan Addison is going to be a big benefactor of that. He was great in college. The tape is amazing. In my opinion, you could throw the tape on. Maybe you think differently, and that's okay. But my perception of this guy is that he's a great receiver that can get it done. And you don't just throw the ball to Justin Jefferson on every fucking play. And I know people say, Nick, the wide receiver 2 in Minnesota struggled last year. Well, that's because Thielen had a really down year. I think Addison, this young buck, 21 years old, should be really good. So I like Jordan Addison a ton. Final guy here. Now, this is definitely someone that people are going to disagree with. This is my guy, Diontae Johnson. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, underdog ADP wide receiver 39 and pick 79.5. Last year he was the wide receiver 39 half PPR, but he stunk in points per game, wide receiver 52. 17 games played. Look, if you had Diontae Johnson last year, I heavily advocated for him. I love Diontae Johnson. I thought George Pickens wasn't going to do shit. I thought Kenny Pickett was going to be just fine, at least better than Mitchell Trubisky. Now, we all know Matt Canada, offensive coordinator, is a certified dummy, certified stooge, not very good at his job, but still has it, right? There's a lot of people that aren't good at their job and still have their job. 17 games played in 2022. 147 targets, gets all the targets. Like, wow, Nick, you were right. Heavily targeted, like you said he would be. 8.6 per game, number 6. 86 receptions, 5.1 per game, 13th at wide receiver. I mean, when you get 150 fucking targets, basically, you'd hope you'd get more than 86 receptions, but it is what it is. Still good. Top 14 at wide receiver, number 13. 882 receiving yards. Yikes. 51.9 per game, number 27. Not the best, but hey, even with less than 1,000 yards, with all those receptions, if you didn't know he was wide receiver 39, you'd probably think, this guy finished in the top 24, right? Even though he didn't have 1,000 yards, he had the receptions. He had a decent amount of yards. He almost had 1,000 yards. He has 7 touchdowns, right? 5 touchdowns. At least 3. No, the motherfucker had 0. Zilch. A donut. No touchdowns. 0 touchdowns. 0. What the fuck happened? What happened? Diontae Johnson's a guy who was not necessarily just feasting on touchdowns in the past like he was eating one of those big-ass things of meat at the medieval times, right? But he also wasn't putting up 0 touchdowns. So, he had the targets. Not the best receptions, not the best receiving yards, but he got the targets. He had 875 unrealized air yards, second at wide receiver. Now, the dropsies were a bit of an issue again. I thought he fixed the issue. It kind of came back. That was number 2 at wide receiver, so I don't like to see that. Don't like to see that, but he had a 15.1% juke rate, 4th at wide receiver, and 250 total route wins, 11th at wide receiver. But Nick, George Pickens makes these crazy catches. Oh my God, he's like fucking Odell. Okay, cool. He's not going to see these targets. He's not. Diontae Johnson's the number 1 receiver. And I know I hate Matt Canada. But just think, if he puts up similar numbers last season, you think Pickett gets better so he gets more receiving yards. He's going to score more than 0 touchdowns, hopefully. Now, touchdowns are a hard stat to predict. So if he scored 0 again, I guess it wouldn't be that crazy. To me, it would, right? You don't get fucking almost 150 targets and score 0. Zilch. 0 touchdowns. Right? That doesn't happen. And I know people are burned by him last year. Nick, he fucked me over. He bent me over a table. Fuck Diontae Johnson, some people might think. Okay. I get that you're a little bit mad. But take everything into consideration. Understand what happened last year, and understand that that's not exactly what's going to happen next year. Just keep in mind, Diontae Johnson is really good. So, my opinion, I think he's not a sleeper, right? He's not going past pick 100, but people are sleeping on him. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you ended up enjoying. I mean, if you watched it this far, you probably did. So, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Today is Wednesday, so we got 2 more videos left on the week. If you missed yesterday's must draft running backs video, make sure you check it out, probably on the screen. I'm pointing towards it. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great guys' day, and as always, good boy.